Welcome back, and today I'm gonna show you my 2024 vice presidential tier list for Ron DeSantis. So let's start off with MTG. So MTG, it should not be a surprise that if for some reason DeSantis picks someone like MTG, it's basically game over and he would lose any points that he would get and win from the suburbs or with independent voters. So yeah, horrible pick to say the least. And yeah, for the next one, I actually do have, I know some of you are a big fan of him, but I do actually have Larry Hogan as the first one in the D tier. And the main reason is that Ron DeSantis needs to find a way to gain with Trump voters and really turn out that base, especially in the Rust Belt. And even though Larry Hogan, he is from Maryland, so perhaps he could get some turnout in some places near to the south in Pennsylvania, it would not be a good decision for him to pick someone like Larry Hogan, who's already out of office and really hated by Trump followers. And for the next one, let's go to Mike Pence. So Mike Pence, if Ron DeSantis were to pick Mike Pence, it would be really a horrible choice. We all know that a lot of the big Trump fans would really, they would see this straight up as a backstab to the Trump wing and would even boycott and likely write in Trump's name. So yeah, horrible, would be a really bad choice. If Pence was actually good with Donald Trump and all those people, he would actually be up here, but because of how bad the relationship between him and Donald Trump are, it's just a big no-no. Following that, let's go to Nikki Haley. So Nikki Haley, she will announce that she is running she'll announce this soon enough, and a lot of the media does want her to be the VP for whoever it is, the GOP nominee. Donald Trump would gain some of it, but DeSantis would straight up not gain anything, because there'll be two Southerners on the same ticket, alongside the fact that Nikki Haley, yeah, she would give you points with women voters, but Rust Belt voters would actually probably go for Joe Biden or stay at home. So yeah, she doesn't offer you much. Following that, let's go to another governor for Greg Abbott. So Greg Abbott, he wouldn't be a horrible choice, but a double governor ticket is a bit iffy. Not extremely bad, but Greg Abbott, even though a lot of Democrats don't like him and see him as being far right, Abbott is seen as being a bit of a kind of like a kind of like a rhino or too liberal. So it's kind of like he's in the anti-Goldilocks zone. So and he's also from Texas, so not a swing state that would worry Ron DeSantis especially. And yeah, let's go to the next one. For a swing state, a big one, I think, which is better than Pence technically, that would be Brian Kemp. So Brian Kemp, he would actually give DeSantis a decent chance at flipping Georgia. I do already think that DeSantis by himself would likely flip Georgia no matter what. It would be close, but with Brian Kemp, it would basically be a nail in the coffin. But the problem is, even though DeSantis would gain in Georgia, expect the Rust Belt to go blue. Especially because, just like Nikki Haley, we had a southerner ticket, so not a great exciting ticket for the general population. For another candidate, which actually is too Trumpy, you could say, Marsha Blackburn, she is above people like Brian Kemp, Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, Larry Hogan, and Abbott, because she would be seen as a good pick by the Trump people, although that she would be another Southerner who wouldn't give you that much. She's from deep red state of Tennessee, so yeah. And she probably would not gain you voters in the suburbs and independents. So, yeah, not a great pick, but still more better than these people, because Trump would probably give you the endorsement and more people would vote for you, but still not a good endorsement. I should say a good pick. And for a new person that they haven't been on this list, on the tier list before. So for Tom Tillis is an interesting pick. He is, I think, better than most people. I think Trump people and DeSantis people and more of the old school Republicans would be okay with him. The issue is that with the Senate in 2024 likely being quite close. I think it's probably going to be either 50 for the Democrats or 51 or 52 for the GOP. You really can't take your chances, especially with the governorship in 2024 in North Carolina likely being a dead toss-up. So you're really risking the Senate flipping back Democrats if you pick Tom Tillis, even though he would help you quite a lot in, you could say, behind the scenes deals. So perhaps that could help him. But still, the fact that you could see a Democrat, governor fill up Tom Tillis' seat with another Democrat is enough for him to barely be out to the D tier. And he was the first one on the C tier. And for the next one, let's go to Tom Cotton. And the only reason why Tom Cotton is actually above Tom Tillis is because, you wouldn't lose a senator. He also is seen as pretty much an average pick. Most people in the party would be okay with him. Both libertarians, Trumpists, establishment, old school Republicans. He's an eye pick for all those people. He does lack charisma, and he's another Southerner. A deep red state in the Southern. He's a deep red senator, so he wouldn't give you anything. At least Tom Tillis would give you some bigger chance of winning North Carolina, but still, at least you wouldn't lose a Senate seat. Chances are. And let's go to Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem is... I'm not too sure. She could either go between... I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna leave her there. The reason why I do have Kristi Noem up there, I do think she would give you more appeal to independent voters, alongside giving you better appeal to suburbanites and more people in the suburbs. So that could give you a big advantage. Issue is that a lot of the Trump folk really don't like her that much. She could be seen as being too much of a establishmentarian, so that would really take back. Alongside, don't forget that she's from the governor of a deep red state in the prairies. So yeah, South Dakota, by the way. So she would not give you anything apart from more appeal to farmers, I guess. And yeah, so moving on to Tucker Carlson. Yeah, Tucker Carlson. Tucker would be a hot pick and a really dangerous pick, because either Tucker Carlson could either tank your campaign to the point of MTG levels, or he could literally flip, Wisconsin or Pennsylvania, or Pennsylvania, you could say. It's really hard to see what would happen with Tucker. He hasn't held public office or ran for office, I think. Yeah, I think so. So there would be a lot of chances for this to be a really huge fail. But there is that small probability that he could actually, be enough to those working class voters and be that reason for DeSantis to win. Although he would cause Democrats to have record high turnouts because of how much they dislike Tucker Carlson, of course. Overall, a very volatile pick, but could be really bad or could be really good, so that's why he's in the middle of the C tier. And let's go to Rand Paul. Rand Paul is similar to Tucker Carlson in some ways. He is more libertarian than populist, and he, just like Tucker Carlson, would give Democrats really high turnout. He is from the deep red state of Kentucky. Not that great, but still, he does have that advantage, that pro that Tom Cotton has, that most people in the party, Trump wing, libertarian wing, establishment wing, would actually like Rand Paul on the ticket, and they would be okay with him. So a bit more of a safe pick than Tucker Carlson, which does put him above him. And for the following one, let me see. That is, in fact, Ted Cruz. So Teddy Cruz, yep. Teddy Cruz. I'm not too sure. Ted Cruz could also go, anywhere here. I do think Ted Cruz, he would get you some of those Trump supporters, I think, alongside being a really big person in the Senate, so that would be a really good thing for Ron DeSantis. If he wins the presidency, would make it easier for him to legislate. He also has more name recognition, and conservatives from most wings would be okay with him. And do have him above Rand Paul, because I do think he could help you more in the campaign trail compared to Rand Paul. And let's go to the next one. And I'm gonna actually have another similar pick to Tucker Carlson. And just like him, she is quite volatile, and that's Tulsi Gabbard. So, Tulsi Gabbard, she is a populist, more of a, you could say center-right populist who was a former left populist who was a Bernie bro. This would be a really interesting pick because it would show that DeSantis does, for a fact, want to appeal to populist. It could be more, Bernie populist as well. She hasn't held public office in a bit, but has held public office, unlike Tucker Carlson, and would help you more. Would be able to help you more on the campaign trail. And it would be a really interesting pick. And I do see if DeSantis runs a right-wing campaign in the primary, I could see him getting away with picking Tulsi Gabbard as a way to appease the Trump wing, especially if Trump is for it. Issue is, we could see a Sarah Palin sort of thing that, like we saw in 2008, she was another volatile candidate, and that just didn't go well. So she could end up being the reason DeSantis lose, or the reason why he wins, which is why I do have her in the seat here, because who knows what could happen with her. For a safe, and one of the most safe picks, really, for the Trump win, perhaps, I do have Mike Pompeo here. Mike Pompeo, the former Secretary of State. Under Trump, this could actually do change, because Mike Pompeo is likely gonna run in the GOP primaries, so if he fights against Trump, then we could very well see him join Mike Pence. But if he's running just to, basically get his name in just to become the vice president pick, which I do think that's why he's running, then he could probably stay here. Mike Pompeo, I do think he could be a decent pick that would also help you, most importantly, in the 2nd District of Nebraska, him being from Kansas, the neighboring state, would help you in that regard. And I think him being the former Secretary of State would help you with independence as well, perhaps. And yeah, a better pick, more safe pick than, Tucker Carlson and most of these people right here. So as I was saying, let's go to the next one. And next, I'm actually going to put Mike Garcia here. So Mike Garcia, I do think Mike Garcia, even though he's a House representative and from California, his main appeal and advantage would be with Latino voters. I do think Latino voters in a DeSantis and Mike Garcia ticket would be quite good and could really surprise Democrats and really be a surprise to them in many ways, I think. Even though Rust Belt workers wouldn't be that happy with Mike Garcia and DeSantis, I think the gains possibly, I'm not too sure, we could see from this ticket will be enough to perhaps, reach that level. I'm not too sure if it would be enough in the Rust Belt, but wouldn't be a bad choice in my opinion. But still, I think he could do better. Following that, let's actually go to Ron Johnson, and the main reason why he's even this high is straight up just because he's from Wisconsin. Ron Johnson, he's quite unpopular in many ways, but still he won in 2022, and I do think that him being from Wisconsin could be seen as a way for DeSantis to perhaps, get him over the line at winning that state, and, winning Wisconsin, in my opinion, it would have a decent chance of winning the Republicans, the 2024 election. He does lack with many people, voters, especially with women voters, I do think. So that's one of the big issues for Ron Johnson, and really, if he wasn't from Wisconsin, he would straight up be probably around here or somewhere like that. But his home state is quite coveted, and the other reason why he's not in the B tier is because Tony Evers would put a Democrat, and that would cost the GOP a seat, certainly. Following that, that's it for the C tier, so let's go to the B tier. And I'm actually going to have Katie Britt at the end of the B tier. She is from Alabama, which really takes a lot away from her, because it's a deep red state, of course. She would get you more of the support within women. the woman demographic, alongside doing better with suburbanites. I do think she would help you with that regard. And she would do better with independents. The issue is she wouldn't give you any state advantage unlike Ron Johnson or, I don't know. There's really not anyone here perhaps, so wouldn't be a bad choice. I think Trump would actually be okay with this pick, so her charisma is, in my opinion, enough for her to be in the B tier. Just at the end though, because, you know, she's from the deep red state of Alabama, of course, but, you know, perhaps she could help you in Georgia as well. For the next one, for Lee Zeldin. So Lee Zeldin, if DeSantis runs a, you know, a law and order campaign, I mean, the best case scenario for really choosing someone like Lee Zeldin would be if there's riots and that sort of stuff, and that's really one of the things that would really cause me to put perhaps in the future Lee Zeldin in S tier and A tier. And if DeSantis wants to run a law and order campaign, Lee Zeldin would just be your guy perfectly. Issue is, you know, New York, it's kind of a deep blue state, especially in the presidential level, around 20%. And don't forget that he is out of office, so that's a big negative for him. Overall, wouldn't be a bad choice. I'm not too sure how he would do with independence, but a law and order campaign will always work for the GOP. And yeah, let's go to the next one for Chris Sununu, perhaps. Tim Scott. I actually do have these two people at the same exact spot. Oh man, it's really tough. Just because, I'm just gonna say this. Just because Tim Scott is from a deep red state, I'm gonna have him below Chris Sununu. Chris Sununu is from New Hampshire, so he could maybe make that competitive. So both of these have these people have many positives. Tim Scott would give you support within African American communities that would give you a better chance at winning states like Georgia, you know, or, you know, Michigan, or states that just have a decent chunk of African American population. The issue is he's seen by some as being a bit too establishment, so that's a bit the biggest takeaway from Tim Scott. But still, he wouldn't be a bad choice. And someone that does suffer a bit of that issue that Tim Scott does, Chris Sununu, he is pivoting quite hard to the right since 2020, really. And the main, really, the positives from is that he is decently charismatic, not extremely charismatic, but would help you with suburbanites and independents to some degree. He also is from New Hampshire, by the way, and New Hampshire, and a DeSantis and Sununu ticket could actually really perhaps go into the tilt D or tilt area. I do think both of them have really good support for college graduates, and their combination could be enough to perhaps flip New Hampshire red, even though it would still have it as barely blue. And that's really the main reason why I do have Chris Sununu over Tim Scott and all these people, is because technically he could actually make and flip a state for DeSantis. And now for really a populist, really one of the big ones in the party and the GOP, for Josh Hawley. So Josh Hawley, as many of you know, he's pretty much seen as pretty much a populist through and through in the GOP in the modern era. He is from Missouri, and he would probably not help you too much with independence because of, you know, of January 6th in 2021 that ruined his appeal to independence, really. But, you know, the Trump wing would really not only be happy, they would likely be quite rejoiceful over this pick, and the turnout really from the Trump wing would be quite high. And this would show the consensus that DeSantis would actually does want to get support from the populists. But yeah, he's from Missouri, so that's the reason why he is not in the A tier. And moving along, for the last one, this is my hot take, really. I do actually have Jim Justice in B tier. I could actually see him perhaps being in A tier. The big takeaway from Jim Justice, just like Josh Hawley, and even more than Josh Hawley, he is from a deep red state. But here's the thing: he's a former blue dog Democrat that, you know, Trump is on okay terms with. He would help you get those ancestral Democrats that, you know, have joined the GOP to some extent, or are on the verge of joining the GOP, and picking someone like Jim Justice would be enough to, really go out, taking at people that work in places like coal mines and all that sort of stuff, and really gas, basically people that dislike the ideas of climate change jobs and all that sort of stuff. But most importantly, funding. And that's something that billionaire West Virginia Governor Jim Justice would be able to do. He is really quite rich and would be able to give DeSantis a chunk of his own wealth, which could be enough to really even put him in A tier, even not, I don't think S tier. He's old, but still, DeSantis is quite young, so DeSantis gonna get away with an older VP pick. The money funding from Jim Justice is really the main reason why he goes from C tier for me to B tier, and perhaps would be a hot take of a pick, but still a really, dark horse pick for Ron DeSantis. And for the next one, let's go, it's between really two people right here. So I'm gonna go for JD Vance. JD Vance, I'm actually gonna have him right there. If JD Vance actually was on a okay terms with Trump, he would actually be easily in the S tier, but we all know that he basically despised Trump in the past. Trump still endorsed him, by the way, but I do feel like Trump wouldn't be too happy and with JD Vance, even though the base would actually be okay with him. If he's still a populist by 2024, then perhaps he could actually rise. He's from Ohio, by the way, so a Rust Belt state, so that would help him, DeSantis, quite a lot. And now for really, I could see Glenn Youngkin either being behind JD Vance or above him. I'm gonna put him just above JD Vance. I do have Glenn Youngkin, and the main reason why I do have him this high is just because of his charisma. He's quite charismatic. As I've said before, really charismatic guy. Former, big person in business, CEO, I think. And he would give you a lot of appeal towards suburbanites. And probably women voters to some extent, not as much as of course as other people. But he would give you that appeal, and it's been a while since we had a governor ticket. I think it was 1940s, right? But yeah. Moving on, yeah, he would be a decent pick, and yeah, would be an okay pick for Ron DeSantis. And now, let's go. Governor Kim Reynolds. Yeah, Kim Reynolds will be an S tier candidate for Ron DeSantis. First of all, she would give you appeal with independent voters, women voters. She's from the Rust Belt as well, and a lot of the Trump wing, some of the establishment wing, and just really most parts of the GOP quite like her. They do see her as being an alright candidate, and her from being a popular governor from the Rust Belt could be a decent pick for Ron DeSantis. But as I said before, I do have the senator from Iowa just barely being above Governor Kim Reynolds, and that is Joni Ernst. So the reason why I do have Joni Ernst above Kim Reynolds is because you want someone that has experience in the Senate, of course. And yeah, that's exactly what Ron DeSantis would need if he was the presidency. Just like, Kim Reynolds, she would give you more support within women voters, independents, and the Trump wing, which is what really matters to Ron DeSantis. And yeah, I think that's about it. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to, give me more suggestions for other tier lists you want to see. And there we go. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for the next video.